Alaska. I never really know where to start. There's something about Alaska that keeps drawing me back. I keep trying to find the way to put words to it, but I know they'll fall short. Instead, I'll try and show you.
What's up is down, what's left is right. Chasing stars and holding you. I can't see the end, but we'll see it through.
Good morning! This is live from Houston. It's 3:45 in the morning, and you won't believe it, the Brown family is loading up. In all seriousness, we're going to Alaska, and we wanted to just kind of document some of this. We're taking May on our first trip, so we're just going to make a little home video. And we're currently headed to Bush Intergalactic. Got half of our entire house packed up. We got fishing rods, baby stuff out the wazoo. I don't even know if we're going to fit it all on the plane. Pray for us as we have May go on this 8-hour flight. May didn't get to come on the moose hunt last year. She hadn't got her grunt out. Ain't that right? Give us one grunt. Oof. Oof. Come on. Oof. Oof. Next year. We'll take her next year on the moose hunt.
Now, before we go any further, I'm going to go ahead and answer the question that you might be thinking. And that is, how is a guy who grew up in southwest Louisiana chasing white-tailed deer, ducks, largemouth bass, all of a sudden so often in Alaska chasing black bears, halibut, rainbow trout? Well, I'm glad you asked. Allow me to elaborate. I grew up dreaming of ways to go explore the last frontier and hoping for a way to get my foot in the door. That opportunity unknowingly came courtesy of good old Uncle Sam when my college roommate received orders to move to Alaska. Since my first trip to visit Garrett, I've been slowly meeting more and more Alaskans who are crazy enough to keep letting me come back and crash their adventures. Brooke probably gets tired of me yapping on and on about Alaska 24/7 and is gracious enough to keep letting me go back. Luckily, she now has a love for Alaska too after her first trip 2 years ago. She was hooked immediately on Alaska, both literally and figuratively, even catching the biggest rainbow last trip, even though she had never held a fly rod before. One of those Alaskans I've met along the way is my friend Jake. Jake is a firefighter turned full-time hunting guide, but also a writer, family man, and just a guy who's always down for an adventure. One of those adventures included flying a Cessna I sold him all 3,300 miles from Louisiana to Alaska this past summer. After completing the monumental journey, he started planning the plane's maiden voyage on her first hunting trip. The first time I heard of this caribou hunt, I promptly invited myself because hunting Alaska airplanes, there's no way I was going to miss that. Sadly, the hunt ended up never leaving the ground, but the wheels were already turning, and so what started as a hunting trip pivoted into a family trip. Jake kindly invited us to stay at their house along the journey, and who are we to pass up a free dry place to sleep? It was a blast getting to see their homestead and spend time with his lovely family.
Our first full day in Alaska had another early start, with May being ready to take on the world at 4 a.m. But who can blame her? There's only so many hours in the day, and if the sun's up, there's wilderness ready to explore. Jake and I made the most of the baby alarm clock and took the opportunity to take the Cessna up for a breathtaking sunrise flight.
We spent the morning looking for moose for his upcoming hunts and taking in the beauty of the Alaskan bush. We worked our way all over the Alaska range, hopping between backcountry strips. Another cool thing about Jake is he guides for one of the best known historic lodges, called Hidden Alaska. Started by a bona fide mountain man in the 70s, Buck Bowden took a team of horses into the Alaskan wilderness and staked a claim of his very own piece of Alaska. Since then, has blossomed into one of the most revered outfits in Alaska, with several hunts on the hit TV show Meat Eater being filmed there. You can imagine my excitement when our first stop after arriving in Alaska was Buck's house, to get to meet the legend himself. Buck is retired from guiding now, but most days he can be found hard at work in his woodshed carving his famed birch bowls. He showed us around the woodshed and presented Jake with his very own birch bowl in honor of him making the leap to full-time guiding this year. This all set the stage for the thrill of getting to fly around and experience the landscape where so many of my favorite hunting episodes were captured. Flying to Buck's lodge after spending time with him and hearing the many stories was a memory I will always cherish. Following the morning flight, the girls and I made the short drive up to Talkeetna. This historic village is nestled at the base of North America's tallest peak, Denali, and is a hidden gem everyone should visit.
We spent the afternoon exploring the charming town, enjoying all the sights and sounds.
That scared Mama.
After May's fun at the park, we took the long way home through the mountains. This was the only place we could think of with enough blueberries to potentially satisfy May's staggering fruit quota. That girl can eat.
Oh, thank you.
Good job,
Thank you
May.
very much. We gotta save some for later. Yeah, okay. I love you.
One of the things that I have found while in Alaska is that you always got to be watching out for bears, especially when there's blueberries around, and make sure to never leave any food out. You never know when they're gonna, oh my gosh, is that a brown bear?
Meme, what'd you do? Did you find the blueberries? Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
Despite her best effort, May did not turn into a giant blueberry. So the next day, we took the opportunity to go check out the place where giant produce does exist. Rain had zero chance of deterring the Alaskans from coming out and enjoying their world-renowned state fair. The 24-hour daylight Alaska gets during the summer leads to many of the world's largest fruit and vegetables being grown in the state, and they're put on full display during the fair. Sadly, vegetables aren't high on May's excitement meter these days. But hey, you know what is? Funnel cake. May devoured her first funnel cake while enjoying the lumberjack races, farm animals, and other fair activities. The remainder of our time at Jake's house mainly consisted of fishing. Having a 1-year-old with you definitely adds a new level of difficulty to fishing, but where there's a Wilson, there's a way. After a few days, we decided it was time to go terrorize the fish somewhere else, so we said goodbye to Jake's family and headed back to Anchorage. While we were there, we decided to take advantage of the break in the rain to go ride bikes.
First moose sighting.
Of course, this is Alaska, so the rain did not hold on for long.
Not a big fan.
And what started as a pleasant ride ended with a soaked, screaming baby.
But I was a man on a mission. We were less than half a mile from the best place in the world to watch 747s, and we couldn't turn back without witnessing the Queen of the Sky.
Thankfully, Aunt Virginia arrived that night as much needed backup. And with that, we were off to start the second half of our trip. The drive to the Kenai Peninsula was a little less scenic than usual thanks to the monsoon we were driving through, but as we got closer, the weather started to turn.
A cozy rustic A-frame was our home for the week, and any chance we had, we'd slip down to the river and do our best to fill the freezer as high as possible. Virginia even joined in the fun, catching her fair share of sockeye. It was a team effort after each haul, with Virginia and I processing the fish, while Brooke kept May occupied. Our second day in Soldotna, we ventured into town before meeting up with our friends the Nelsons. Nate is also a firefighter and a hunting guide at Hidden Alaska. He was my first Alaskan friend, and I actually met him in Louisiana. After Hurricane Laura in 2020, he came to the boot for the first time as a volunteer with Samaritan's Purse. When he said he loved to hunt and had a boat, I knew this friendship was going places. Since then, he's taken me on a few bear hunts and even came back to Louisiana on his first turkey hunt. I mean, you want to talk about a heck of a trade. After lunch at their house, Nate invited us on a family outing to go pick wild cranberries. They mix these with other berries to make their own juice. The kids had a blast just being outdoors and getting all their energy out.
Oh my goodness. Did you get those all yourself?
I definitely did. So come up here, there's lots of berries up here.
They're all up there?
Yeah.
Just trying to put Ocean Spray out of business out here. We're picking our own cranberries. Gotta make sure that it grows up with all the vitamins and everything.
Yeah, who you got helping you there?
That star leaf puller herself, May. She has been devouring the leaves. So shout out to her mother for bringing the chicken along and trying to keep this girl full, because this girl is in full leaf eating mode.
The next day, Brooke and Virginia went on a tour of the Kenai Fjords, enjoying the orcas, puffins, and the breathtaking Spire Cove. They managed to stay dry on their boat when the heavy rains came. May and I, on the other hand, not so much.
You having fun yet? Yeah.
May was a trooper though, and after drying off, we headed back to Seward to enjoy our own sea life tour. We capped off the day with a quick hike to see the famed Exit Glacier, before heading home for some much needed rest. I was hardly able to sleep that night though, knowing what excitement the next day held. Kodiak Island. But before we get into Kodiak Island, we need to do a quick recap. So far, I've listed one friend with an airplane and one with a boat, but what about an airplane that is a boat? Well, you guessed it, there's a friend for that too. Josh is a fishing guide, pilot, and aircraft mechanic. He even lives on a floatplane lake. I mean, come on, it doesn't get any cooler than that. If that's not cool enough, listen to this. Josh had the crazy idea a few years ago to take the back seats out of the floatplane to make room for what else than another boat. Next, you fly said boat to the end of the world, blow it up, and take it out deep sea fishing. When he first told me about this madness, I knew I had to see it for myself. Now back to Kodiak. This famed island is most known for their world record brown bears and brutal, unforgiving weather. But thankfully, neither made an appearance this day. However, Kodiak's great fishing was on full display. 2 hours after blasting off from Josh's dock, Kodiak started to come into view. We touched down in a quiet cove and eagerly readied the boat for open water. It truly is the coolest place I've ever been, and without a doubt, one of the most remote. To interact with a wild, untouched place brings out a feeling deep in my bones that I can't quite shake. Even now, thousands of miles away from that wilderness, my mind can be found wandering back again and again. Back home in Louisiana, I've been offshore over 100 miles to find the fish. But here, life is so abundant and void of human interference, you barely have to leave the cove. Calm seas made the short boat run a breeze, and within no time we were on the fish. Most people tend to think of halibut as the delicacy of the Alaskan Sea, and while they definitely are my favorite, Josh's favorite is lingcod. Lingcod are wicked-looking fish, and they share the same waters with halibut, so why not catch both? To this point, I had never caught or consumed a lingcod, but after catching our limit, I'm a believer. With a full boat, we figured it was time to return to our families. So we reeled in our lines and headed back towards our peaceful cove to clean fish and get ready for the flight home. As a flatlander, one thing I never get quite used to is the massive tidal swings. While fishing the marsh, you might encounter 1, maybe 2 feet of change. However, on my first trip with Josh years ago, I discovered that was definitely not the case in Alaska. I'll never forget looking out in confusion thinking, that log floating away looks awfully like my gear I left on dry ground. Luckily, Josh has more awareness than me, and no gear was lost in the making of this film. We said goodbye to our little slice of paradise and started the journey back to the Kenai Peninsula. Below us, the girls spent the day checking out Homer and all that the friendly port had to offer. Back where the day started, a smooth touchdown marked the end to a perfect day. But then, the best part. A few short hours, we would be going back out again, bright and early. Part of my original sales pitch to Brooke for this trip was the return to Katmai in pursuit of their renowned rainbows. The first time Josh took us out to Katmai, we had an incredible day and caught some monster fish, but were unable to crack the revered 30-inch mark. After 2 years of talking about the one that got away, today was going to be the day we landed a world-class trophy trout.
Katmai National Park is best known for its extensive brown bear population, with breathtaking viewing areas such as Brooks Falls. And there's good reason why those apex predators are in the park. Salmon. Millions of them. But bears aren't the only thing that follows the salmon spawn. Trout and other fish gorge themselves on the salmon eggs all summer and almost compete with the bears on who can put on the most weight. Just the flight alone is worth making the trip to Alaska. Jagged mountain passes, volcanoes, countless wildlife, beautiful rivers, tundra, and even the largest freshwater lake in the state all make this flight the shortest 2.5 hours in memory. As we neared the same river we fished 2 years ago, I was overcome with excitement. The remoteness of this place is often hard to fully grasp. Countless times I've found myself wondering what certain places looked like before human influence, but here, that's not necessary. Overhead, you can even see ancient game trails permanently cut into the tundra, used by generations of brown bears and other inhabitants of the park.
After the short hike in, we took to the water, excited about who was going to start off the show. We were so certain the trout bite would turn on any minute, but as the day sped by, our optimism started to fade. We ended up landing a great trout halfway through the day, but besides a few other strikes, the trout were not playing ball. Even so, complaining was the last thing on our mind,
It's a good one,
as we
too.
took in every second of nature's beauty. The occasional salmon bycatch and the wonderful wildlife kept us grinning from ear to ear the whole day.
First fish, baby.
Well, let me back up. Not the whole day. As you might be able to tell, I bought my first camera for this trip. Originally I was going to film the next caribou hunt, but instead I decided to still make a film as a means to learn the ins and outs of the camera, and videography as a whole. But sadly, the camera didn't survive its first Alaska trip. After taking some more bear videos, I was walking along the riverbank when all of a sudden the bank gave way into the water. Man, I would have loved to have a slow motion video of me headfirst flailing into that frigid water for everyone's enjoyment. Even in my freshly soaked and now cameraless state, we pushed on, trying spot after spot, but as the sun sank low, we knew our time was limited. Our last spot was more the same, but through the shivering and camera frustrations, my heart couldn't help but overflow with joy. I mean, here I am fishing an Alaskan river, blessed with a beautiful, loving wife who was always ready for my next crazy adventure. I was also overwhelmed with the gratitude for Josh and all the friends who made this trip a reality. Life has a funny way of redirecting plans, and what originally started with the disappointment of a canceled caribou hunt turned into the trip of a lifetime. Don't get me wrong, I'm always down to shiver myself to sleep on the side of a mountain in pursuit of big game. However, I wouldn't change a thing and will always be grateful for this trip. A trip full of family, friends, and God's creation. His handiwork was evident at every turn of this trip, but was most evident as our time wrapped up in Katmai. As we prepared to say goodbye to the park, I couldn't help but smile at the trophy caribou watching us pack up. Fresh out of dry socks and my new camera to film the bull with, I took in our final moments of the last frontier, and thank God for his plans being greater than ours. Till next time, Alaska. If you made it this far, I'd like to take a moment to say thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed making it. With any luck, I'll be back to my favorite state come next year, armed with a new camera and ready to do it all over again.